Okay, anyway, thank you so much for joining. We've got the legend Greg K of Car Bomb, aka Zetekra. How is it going today?
What's going on, man? How are you? It's
I'm
going good.
okay.
Yeah,
Um,
summer's kicking in, so it's awesome. Very
yeah, it
stoked.
is getting hot. This shirt
Yeah,
is
yeah.
purely for the aesthetic. It's too hot. But shout out to Terry and love these guys. Anyway, so we haven't spoke in a while. We touched in a while ago, a couple years ago, being when you were doing Zetekra, which from what I remember, it was not necessarily something planned, but like something that was like you had a lot of these things sitting on the side, and it seemed like a good time to get it going.
Mhm,
And then you released something more recently as a Tekra as well.
mhm.
I was just wondering with like it's been a while since we saw a Carbon drop. Has any of that like production Greg mind creeped in more into like the Carbon process?
Good question. I don't think yet, maybe. I don't know. Because the production's pretty simple. It's still just a single guitar on each side, bass, and but I mean, I think we were more cognizant of maybe the frequencies on this one. So we used Johann Meyer, who works with Gojira and
Right.
Mastodon. He does the live sound for them. And he mixed this EP, and it took a long time to get like specifically the mid range to get that exactly right to where it's like aggressive but not piercing. And I
Yeah.
think I don't know, just being doing electronic music, I guess, or working with Ben Frost is like made me a little more aware of what the frequencies do and how they should behave, I guess. So yeah, I guess in that respect, yes.
That's really interesting because I mean, in a way, Mordial almost teased what was happening in your brain in particular. I was like, there's such a massive increase in these like guitarscape things that are happening,
Sure,
these
yeah.
like robot talk. And honestly, like it's beautiful and it's scary at the same time. Some of the way those things stretch out, and I was
Cool.
like, it makes sense when Sataka was happening because you could almost hear more of that Autechre and like Aphex Twin stuff in the stretchiness of your like new sounds in the guitar. So that
Mhm.
was really cool to see. And what I'm getting out of the new single and maybe the new EP, I'm not sure because I haven't heard the whole thing yet, but it definitely sounds more live and um organic maybe than Morgul. And I don't mean that as a knock against Morgul. It just sounds like very much more of a live and organic thing. Does that sort of resonate with the EP?
Sure, I think so. I think with the EP, we're trying to not take a step backwards, but kind of go more towards our roots, like more with Centralia and W Click W. I mean, I think with Mordial, like the idea behind Mordial was like we liked the way Gratitude turned out, so we wanted to see how far we could push that direction. But I think maybe we pushed it a little too far, not for me, but maybe for other members of the band. And I think as a whole, everybody kind of wanted to go back to a more, straight up, heavy sound, which is totally cool by me. And now there are other avenues for me to kind of get that other soundscapey, My Bloody Valentine-ish, like shoegaze stuff out and other projects. I have another thing that's in the oven right now that I'm working on. That's going to be a little more. I'll have more of the Mordial elements within heavy stuff.
Cool.
You know
That's
what I'm saying?
exciting.
Yeah. But yeah, for the EP, it's more just like kind of straight up shit.
It I so recently I know maybe you've been doing this, maybe not recently, maybe when it came out. I am also a big Meshuggah fan. And
As you should be, as everybody
yeah,
should
I
be.
figure as
Yeah.
most should,
Yeah.
especially these days, it just makes sense to be like looking at the news and hearing like I am that thirst in the background. You're just like, fuck. But I was listening to the remaster of their latest album, and that's when that kind of crept up on me. I was like, oh, damn, this very forward guitar, very forward drum thing is not new for Car Bomb because you guys have a very full sound, but it seemed like Johann Meyer had like brought maybe this, like you were saying, attention to frequencies that just
Yeah.
couldn't have been brought in, before without his eye or his ear, whatnot. But that was bringing me up to the point that like you guys have also had a few records now, and it's okay almost to be like, oh, what we're doing now almost calls back to this or calls back to this. Similar to Meshuggah, Animals as Leaders has like a pendulous thing where like, oh, this record was a lot heavier. this record was a lot more prog. This record was heavier again, then more prog. So it's cool to
Right.
hear that you guys are kind of leaning more into like the mid range this time around. Did you guys think that this would be your first EP, or did you think this was going to be part of a larger thing?
We thought it was going to be part of a larger thing. So we have a large group of songs, and we still are just not finished with them yet. And it takes forever for us to write and get everybody on the same page and finish things. And we're all busy. We're not, 20 years old just doing this, for fun anymore. It's like we need to make time for it. But we didn't want to rush it either. And we felt like with Mordial, like we rushed it slightly, like a little bit. There's a couple little things in there where we're like, we don't really want to. If we had more time, we would have made that part a little bit better, or a little more professional, or something a little more honest, or something like that. So we really want the new rule is just to it's got to be 100%. Everybody's got to be 100% happy with everything, which means it's going to take longer. So saying that, it was like we have these 3 songs done. Let's just put them out. One of the songs will be on the record itself when it comes out, hopefully next year, and just to keep things moving along because it's been I think 6 years since we've released something new as far as music goes.
It's a
But
lot of
that's the reaction I had too. Was like, just
oh,
looking at the
six.
calendar, you're like, holy shit, it's fucking 6 years. Holy fuck. So
Yeah, it seems like more and less at the same time because Morgul to me is still such a fresh experience when you turn it on. Like it just stands in a different area of metal than a lot of stuff. It's sort of like your friends in Gojira or maybe even Viljarta. Like there's like they fill in these negative spaces that exist in heavy music, like similar to Carbon, where it's almost like if you just maybe put out this line of just constant like 64th notes, like maybe bands consistently stick to like these quarter note divisions, and like bands more like Gojira and Carbon have like these very extended ways, like much longer, bigger visions for subdivisions, I guess. Not to do like a stupid math pun there, but it's interesting to watch bands say like they sound like each other, but anyway, sorry, I'm getting a little lost here because I just started thinking about like, oh yeah, you can think of Viljarta like this way. But anyway, do you guys think now that you're not that you haven't always been firing on 100%, but like with that in mind, are there bands that you see around you or have been inspired by that are still doing that, like giving you that 100% feel, or that's probably coming out in a weird way. Sorry, I'm just like just chugged a coffee and I'm like giving you the 100% feel. What does that even mean?
no, I kind of get it, and I think it's gonna sound like a weird answer, but Turnstile,
Very cool. Very
dude,
cool.
they're fucking killing it, man. Like their music is, I don't know, like the way they use keyboards in between, like to bookend that first song, Never Enough. The way
One
it just,
just came
I,
out.
I,
Yeah.
I don't know, just the production quality is like 100%. Like the feels are there, like the lyrics are there. They're ambiguous enough and specific enough, and I don't know. I feel like they can do no wrong right now. I'm a huge fan
It
of them.
is really cool to see them doing stuff. I love the debate that they inspire. I love the debate that hardcore in general inspires these days. I really thought I was caught saying this in public, but like I thought that Scowl would suck. I was like, I've never heard this band, but all I ever see is people talking shit about their position in the industry.
Mm.
I'm gonna tune that out. And then I just like let Spotify go one day on a turnstile shuffle, and one of their songs came up, and I was like, "This is fucking good.
It's
What
good,
is
man. It's
this?"
really good. Yeah,
Yeah, and so
like power chords and melody. Like who would have thought? Like really simple shit.
and it's kind of like how I know you probably appreciate this about Nirvana, and it's what shows up in the music a lot. There's like the expected thing that you're bobbing your head to, and then there's sometimes it's just one shift downwards in a note, like one
Mm-hmm.
dissonant thing. And you're like, that's enough to make it. It's enough to make me pay attention, I guess,
Sure.
and like get you going and not feel like embarrassed about listening to something accessible and 4/4 and whatnot, which is
No, never. No, not at
special.
all.
Music
Yeah,
should just be enjoyed at this point. Who
agreed.
knows how much time you have?
Totally. Well, with Nirvana, like their trick was always like changing the key a little bit. Like Kurt would always throw like a wrong note somewhere, which always like in the perfect spot. Like I think that was the trick, I guess. Same thing
Yeah,
with like the guitar solos and the weird like ism like slides and weird shit that they did. That was like their trick. With Turnstile, it's like they just have such a great sense of like writing songs and like how to trim things. Like everything is like they never like there's a verse and chorus and stuff, but it always kind of changes a little bit. Or like, something is trimmed or something before it's a little different. Like they know how to like spice it up just enough. So it's like you said, like, what's coming, but you get surprised just a little bit.
Just enough. Yeah. And
Yeah.
the new album seems like an extension of like their ratio that they found on the last album, how they are like surprising you with little bits of like 80s nostalgia, maybe even late 70s nostalgia things.
Yeah.
And they were in the last album, they were just like, oh, that's happening in the background for this chorus or in this verse. And this album, it's like that's gonna happen for the length of the song that's actually on the track.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the end and the beginning of Never Enough, it's like a long intro, a turnstile song, and then a super long
Super
outro.
long outro. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's
Totally.
cool. I love that they should have done the bass, that like last bass drop. I just wish it did that over and over again. It feels so good.
What the
Yeah,
that part? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
perfect.
Absolutely. Yeah. They have a
Excellent.
really good sense of production. I don't know, but it's like it's fresh. I don't know. I'm into it. Like, I mean, I'm super stoked that hardcore is back or has been back for a while now. Like even like bands like Sangui Sugabog, like just the heaviness and that
Yeah.
raw, like, and they do like some crazy like mathy stuff every once in a while too, which makes them really heavy. I just love that vibe is back because I mean, I know we're like pretty mathy and pretty like regimented with what we do, and a lot of like I guess gent or modern stuff is very precise. But it's nice to see bands sort of like open up and be a little looser and have more of like that energy, that raw
Yeah.
hardcore energy come back, which is awesome.
And it's cool to see that seep into like you're saying, like having the feel and like the rawness of hardcore. The more that you see in metal, that tends to be like a great thing. I know there's a lot of purists in both camps who prefer something very surgical in metal or something very it'd be barely listenable maybe in hardcore. It sounds like it was
Mm,
recorded on a piece of shit and then pressed to tape.
right, right.
They some like I think there's like a couple old Infest records where I'm just like, yeah, I get it. This is very fun. Like in my left ear, like woo, 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 woo. And it's a lot of fun. But like I enjoy hearing it. I enjoy knowing what's going on. So seeing heavy stuff in the middle is the best. But anyway, let's bring it back a little bit to the EP that's happening now. We talked a little bit already how it wasn't necessarily planned as an EP, but when you decided that,
Mhm.
how did the title come about? Tiles Whisper Dreams.
Yeah. So that's a Mike specific story, and he doesn't want to reveal.
Okay, it
But
sounds like
in
maybe he
general,
knows
it's
himself.
about something about geometric shapes talking to each other or some weird shit. I don't know. His
Okay,
his brain, where his brain goes with his lyrics is I have no idea. But
he's a
I
funny
know the specifics
lyricist.
of it, but he's asked me not to mention what it really means.
Fair enough. Fair
Yeah,
enough.
yeah,
I think people probably are already theorizing in their own way, but it's definitely very creative and definitely very Mike in terms of
definitely,
uh,
absolutely, yeah, yeah,
his sort of it's I don't know, he's got like a universe. He's the perfect singer for the car bomb sound. Is like I love how over the last couple albums he has, especially even on this new song, his melodic parts are barely melodic. They're like haunting and sort of like Lane Staley,
huh,
uh
okay,
sort of just like very not right but perfectly not right. The way he sits on those chords that you're doing like duh, duh, the what he's
hmm,
doing is like very zombie like and super cool for a metal vocalist to just give into like let's make that as freaky as possible. um
sweet.
so kudos on the new single. I really love the new single and I'm excited to hear the other stuff. Some when did the writing sessions technically start for this stuff?
Right after Mortal, like,
Okay.
yeah. So I don't know. I guess with touring with Gojira and Animals and seeing these bands, like just lit a fire in our ass to just write as much as possible. And I've written over like 100 and something, 120, 130, like 1 minute, 2 minute demos of ideas. And just, obviously when you write a lot of it's crap. So you got to throw all that shit away. But it took a long time to get to like the 11, was it 11 songs? Yeah, 11 songs that we have for this batch. And then we started recording the drums like 2 years ago. And then just slowly chipping away at like guitar parts, and a lot of the notes are changing in the guitar parts, and Mike's taking his time with the vocals to make sure he likes what he's doing, and we're just not in a rush to make it. We'd rather focus on making something the best we can make it, and just giving us like the space to do that so that it can come out when it comes out, as opposed to being like, oh, we have a deadline, we got to do this. And I think the last record we did that, and for the most part, we're really happy with the way Mortal came out. But there's like I said, there's a couple little things we're like, we could have done a little better.
It's a great record for driving, uh, but you have to turn it up like way the fuck up. I honestly, that's my least. It's funny how people do car tests for mix these days. Still, like,
Yeah,
we've spent like 6 hours in the studio. Let's go outside, smoke a cigarette, get in the car, and then do it
crank it.
again.
Yeah,
But then when you're driving for real and you're testing that stuff, like the noise of everything else is the worst possible thing for music. It just sounds like blowing back into the speakers. It's terrible. Um,
yeah.
not a yeah. I'm looking at
That's why
car.
you got to pay attention to the mid range. Like I was saying, it's like all those little annoying things. Like you don't like if you hear like our mix iterations, it's like you think we're crazy. And like Johan was like, you guys are nuts because like you can barely hear the difference between the relationship between these two frequencies. But when you hear it in a car or you hear it in a different like spot or even earbuds or something like that, and you crank it, those frequencies magnify. So something will just start to attack you. And we didn't want that. We wanted you to be able to crank it as loud as you could and it wouldn't hurt. You can just keep destroying your
Yeah.
ears with it and nothing's going to poke out at you.
So that's something that kind of almost harkens back to like maybe grunge or like 90s and early 2000s guitar production, where like maybe think of something like Chevelle or Tool or Breaking Benjamin, like when rock was like meant to be. I don't know if it was meant to be. It was just so popular that you expected it to be turned up that loud.
Yeah, yeah.
So the
Yeah,
chunk,
those guitars sounded amazing. Even the Deftones stuff. I mean,
yeah,
all
and
the
that's
Deftones
probably the
guitars
best
sounded.
example
Yeah.
of the Deftones is like that attention to what really makes that music human. That mid range and like not necessarily overcomplicating it, but anyway, like I like that even on meta, I would say that the guitar tone was kind of like that. It was getting like way warmer than it was on the Waveform album and on
Mhm.
Centralia.
Yeah.
Uh, and I felt like it was that way as much as it ever was for Mordial. But the new single, like I was saying, like sounds live. Did when you first started recording and like getting maybe like drums done, did you sense when it was being laid, like when you were writing and doing the production, that it was going to sound like that, or did that happen after you recorded it?
After we recorded it, I think. I mean, Elliot always loves his drums to sound as live as possible and as much as like a human drum set as possible. So, you know, but also Johan and I are huge fans of like modern production. So I think there's like a healthy balance between the two in Elliot's drum sound now. But I think the attention to detail with the mix came sort of afterwards. Like the more we kept listening into it, and the more we kept A/Bing to other stuff that's out there, we're like, let's just try to make it as best as we can, and like get lost in the rabbit hole of learning about these frequencies and what they do, and yeah, and that's why it turned out the way it turned out.
I think the people are super excited to hear what they already thought was like a very perfected sound from Car Bomb become even more dimensional. So I did not expect anything coming from you guys to not necessarily sound better because I thought you peaked. I was just like, this is the perfect Car Bomb frequency. So to hear it improved on again, it just kind of speaks to how you guys still are coming from the heart, and coming from what sounds best to you. Is that something that is difficult, do you think, in heavy music, like to find a balance between like modern production and maybe like the rawness of your original ideas?
I think since we try to sound like Meshuggah anyway, like it's pretty obvious that we wear that inspiration on our sleeve. It's going to sound more machine like than raw like. So I think obviously there's the kick and the guitar syncopation that has to be spot on. So that kind of makes it a little less raw in that respect. So with that, we just sort of make that as a given, but try to keep other things looser around that, like maybe the key of the song, or Mike's interpretation of things and the way that
Sure.
he's, his parts. He's not singing like super in time with us all the time. Sometimes he's a little bit late or early, and that sort of humanization really adds to what we're doing as a
Okay.
band.
I feel
So
like Elliot is a huge part of that too. Like the drumming
absolutely,
is
yeah,
so jazzy, but so it reminds his drumming has always reminded me of the earlier Thomas Hawke stuff from Meshuggah, where
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
where I'm almost like conflicted by it, where I'm like, I just want to listen to the drums, or I just want to listen to the guitar. It took me
Yeah,
years to get used to those early records, but
yeah.
it was easier with
We had
Carbon.
no idea what we were doing in those early records. We kind of fucked up a little bit.
Well, I mean, for Car Bomb, it's for me like something. What's the Meshuggah record that's kind of like that? It always was on the
Contradictions
level.
collapse. Is that the one? The first
So
one?
not that one. It's the one with the
Oh,
spike.
Chaos Sphere.
Yeah, Chaos Sphere has
Chaos Sphere.
always
Yeah.
been like I've always thought like, okay, this is where Car Bomb basically starts. Is Chaos Sphere is where they started with Centralia in terms of the production, in terms of like how it hits my ears. But you guys were also using your own microphones, right?
Yeah. Well, on preamp. So Elliot built his own like Neve clones and 1176 clones. The microphones are whatever, I think like 57s and whatever we had. We didn't have anything crazy. But that was us. I was recording guitars in Johnny and I's rented house in Lindenhurst, New York. Like we had the recording console set up on the second floor and the amps in the basement. We run like 50-foot XLR cables, and
Wow.
it was just like moving. Yeah, we were just messing around, just trying to do it. We thought like it would be better for us to experiment ourselves and try to get a sound versus paying someone to do it. Which I love the way those records sound, but I think I would have done it a little differently this time. If I were to go back.
Remasters are very popular these days.
Very true. Very true. Very true.
Get the guy who did is it Jamie King who did the Between the Buried and Me ones recently? The Between the Buried and Me remasters have all been amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because like I always thought the guitar sounded very much like what it was, like an Ibanez going through a super gainy amp. And I was just like, it's so thin that I
Mhm.
really want to know what these chords are. Like, I love the songs, but I always want to know more about the chords. And the
Sure.
remasters give it way more of that like low mid stuff. And it's very satisfying to listen to those records again and be like, finally, I knew I
Sweet.
wasn't crazy.
Yeah, but then you hear like so I'm kind of on the fence with this one because now I kind of like it. The Nothing record by Meshuggah, like they totally reamped the guitars and everything for that one.
Yeah.
With
Wait, sorry,
yeah,
for
with
which one?
the yellow version and the blue version, and I don't the yellow version, even though it sounds technically worse, like has more of a vibe to it, I guess.
Wait, I'm sorry. This right when you said what record it was, my dog had a.
Oh, Nothing.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
a great example, actually. Yeah.
exactly. But I mean, I love the first one too. I mean, I do. The more I listen to the newer one, the more I like it. But there's something about the snare in that first one, just how like raw and disgusting that it is. That
Yeah.
those offset backbeats just sound nastier because it doesn't sound correct. So
Yeah, I agree. And that is sort of how I perceived remasters in general for a long time. I was just like they're going back and they're kind of like negating the original magic.
mhm.
But yeah, I'm just being more surprised and being more open to being surprised these days, especially after the Between the Buried and Me. I'm not saying, hey, go get a remaster from this dude. Um, but yeah, I'll always appreciate the rawness, and especially the one of the weird parts of the earlier car bomb things is like how forward the drums are, but it's the perfect intro to like what you're really getting into with car bomb. Like
Mhm.
his like barely or his very human attack to these mechanical songs, is so awesome. And even if it takes people like me a second to get it, it's worth it. It's better when it takes you a second to get it and enjoy it for the rest of your life than instead of like just enjoying it right away.
Exactly. Yeah, that's every Meshuggah record. You get that, and you're like, "What the hell?" You can kind of count it, but you can't quite count it. And then like 6 months later, like, "Oh, that's where the one is." And then that's where I
That's
don't
when
know.
you love
There's something
it.
about like discovering, like watching a movie. Like I don't know, like just when you go back to one of your favorite movies and you find a line that you didn't really understand the meaning of it, but then it kind of reveals itself. Like
uh,
I like that with music too. Like I don't want it to always be like here's everything. I want there to be some like hidden stuff so people can really dig in and find stuff later.
that reminds me. could be very random. Do you happen to play video games ever?
No, because I get addicted to them if I do. So it's
Understandable.
been
That's
like 20 years since I played a video game. Yeah.
I had not done it for probably 10 years. When I started playing in bands, I just never at first it was a time thing, and then I was like, I know what's gonna happen when I sit down
Mm,
with you guys. Don't let me do it.
exactly.
Yeah, and I didn't play again until like the pandemic. So for like a solid several years, I was out of the game. But there's some people really pushing storytelling there, and it's still a common message there. Like if it's something that you like right away, the odds are you're going to move on to the next thing fairly quickly. And if you have issues with it, even if you don't like it at first, but eventually you come back and understand it, it really is something that is like, that's what art really is, how it like affects you and like stays on your mind, and the interpretation changes over time. um, and yeah, I think that at the very least, Carbom has always given us true art, even if it is violent ass crazy art.
Oh man.
It's always been challenging, but always rewarding. And so I'm super looking forward to this EP. Um, so let's say we have like a few minutes left. I did want to ask something about the guitar over there. Is that your baritone guitar?
Yeah, that's the Jericho. Yep.
Okay, so is that you're like OG, like I kind of fell into a guitar? Is that your first baritone?
No, this is the one that. So I got two other Gibson Baritone Explorers, and then I
Okay.
just found this company that makes this one. They don't make it anymore. They got sued by Gibson, so they had to add a couple extra little curves on the back and the front. But these play way better than the Gibsons. They're absolutely amazing. Like
I
I broke it traveling to California for a show with Ben Frost, and the headstock cracked. Like
uh
TSA fucked it up, and I was like, I gotta fix it because I love this guitar. And yeah, it's great. I love it.
when I wrecked a
Also,
guitar.
go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
No, I was gonna say another one that I keep playing is the Dunable baritones.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, the asteroid. That's the V shape with the SG headstock.
Those look so
That
cool.
guitar is amazing too.
I really want to play one of those. Every time I see one, I'm like, I get it, and I feel like I know what it's gonna play like, because I was gonna say I worked at Guitar Center for several years, and with headstocks on all those Gibsons, they're at that slight like 15-30 degree angle where like the slightest like tip, it makes it so much easier for the
Yeah, yeah.
headstock to break. A lot of people say that it sounds better after it's repaired and is more stable.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it sounds pretty good now. I haven't really noticed a change, but it
It's
hasn't
probably
lost
just
any quality.
juju, like it's probably not real, but like I believe maybe once having someone really look at it after it leaves the factory, it probably is what actually makes it sound better. um
Maybe. Well, I don't know. James Hetfield, like his guitars got fucked up a lot, and his tone's always been amazing. So maybe you just need
that's
to make a model where you just destroy it in 1,000 pieces and make it all glue. Maybe that will like be the sickest tone ever. Who
that
knows?
is a pretty cool idea. That kind of reminds me of Spinal Tap. If you want, I think it's a deleted scene where the dude is filling his amp with nuts and vegetables to like get like a specific EQ.
Okay, I don't think I saw that.
It's
That's amazing.
I'm looking forward to the sequel, but yeah, I think it's a deleted scene. But were there any? So you've always worked with the Axe and like baritone guitars. Was there anything new coming this time around?
No, I mean, no, not really. For the record, it's all the same shit. Yeah,
That's okay.
absolutely. Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, it's so I'm so used to using it that I mean, it's all these other new tools and new pedals, and I've messed with like Quaker stuff, and I love their stuff. The Neural DSP plugins are great. There's a lot of other great stuff that just sounds amazing, but for what like the way that Carbon moves and for switching and for touring, and it's just really simple just to have an Axe FX, a power amp, and a PS3, and that's it.
and that doesn't really present any like live issues.
No, it's great. I mean, obviously a modeler doesn't sound as good as an amp, because you don't really get that full. There's something about an amp that just like it growls correctly, like the
Right.
low end just feels a little sweet. But the thing is consistency. So it's always, I don't have to worry about pedals breaking or those little power connectors busting out, or for setting up. If we're doing like a festival, you have like 5 minutes to set up. So literally, you just crack open the Axe FX, plug in the speaker cab of the speakers into the power amp, hook up the cables to the pedals, and you're done, and you're ready to go. And just makes it
It's
really easy.
That's really cool, and I bet probably for someone who's playing more sizable gigs too, it makes more sense. When I was playing in like a relatively garagey band, the one of the guitar players was like obsessed with gear, and so the second that the Kemper was available, he got that.
Oh,
And I
nice.
was like, this makes house shows impossible. Because you cannot, like, yes, you have to get a power amp and get this all mic'd up yourself, which is cool. But he didn't do that for months. And like, we were plugging
Hmm.
into PAs, and I was like, your guitar is all over the house. And it just sounds like a cat just running around.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
it is really cool when you have that in a studio setting or in larger places that are like, or even just any place that has a capable sound board
Mhm.
for that. But yeah, I
Yeah,
remember.
I mean, the IRs are so much better too now. I mean, they keep changing. Like I know the Axe FX has a new. I haven't messed with it yet. They have like a different type of speaker simulator thing that's in there. I think in there a couple of back a couple of releases ago for their firmware. But I'm using right now. I'm using Ola England's the
Oh,
one.
right on.
It's like $4 or $7 or something, and it's perfect. It sounds great.
I love that guy's channel. Of the several dozen guitar dudes that are always in my feed. If I'm ever in like a weird mood, Ola always makes me feel better.
Yeah, it's
Funny
good shit,
dude.
man. And its tone is the best. It's been the best for a decade. It sounds phenomenal.
Is what? So it's a specific IR.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it was like for a Metallica like ripoff or whatever, but he just
Sense.
there's something about it where it just sounds mean as fuck. And then if you like, there's a lot of EQ like before the speaker too in the Axe effects, like rolling off some highs and like scoping the mids a little bit. It just has this like certain bark to it. And I was gonna mic up some speakers and try to see if I can get a different sound, but I'm like, I just like how this sounds. So we just went with it.
That's rad. It's
Yeah,
gonna
and
kick
Johan
us
really didn't do
over.
much to the EQ either on the mixing side.
It's gonna kick us over to the other meet
Okay.
just a second here. So it's gonna beep. Oh, before we go though, I did want to mention to people who don't know yet, you're going on a very cool tour soon, and you're going to Australia for the first time.
Hmm.
Are you looking forward to that? Slash, what are you looking forward to in Australia?
I was in Australia last year with Ben, so it was my first time there, and it was phenomenal. And to go there with animals, like we know the whole animals camp and their crew, and it's going to be awesome. We can't wait.
Have you
As
played
far
any
as
of
just
those?
sorry,
Sorry, have you played any of those Larada guitars?
no, I don't think so.
The Abasi guitars?
Oh yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, those are wild.
Those
Those
look
are,
crazy.
those are
I
they have too
really
many strings though. They have like 8 strings. It's like way too much shit going on.
fair
Yeah, but
enough.
so his cutaway though, the cutaway shape. I forgot the name of the model of that, but those are awesome. So I was thinking of maybe getting a 6 string of that if he ever makes a baritone version of it, but
Mhm.
we'll see.
Anyway, yeah, sorry. The tour with animals as leaders. Maybe you probably will get a chance to
Of
maybe
course,
whisper
trying
in
to
his
play one of those
ear.
ginormous, huge guitars. We've
Those
guitar
are
swapped before, and we were like he lobster bibs his, so like he's playing up here, he does all this crazy stuff, and I'm just like I can't even get my hands like to even do what it needs to do to get in the high strings. But he'll put my guitar on, and it's like a machine gun. It's like I play really low, and he's like, I don't know what to do with this either. So
that's a very personal thing. No one like you look at Steve Albini too, where he's got like a belt wrapped around his waist and is literally kind of like a like strapping machine gun thing. And
right, right,
I think to most people it looks a little bit weird, but
totally, totally.
it also looks people to like in the metal crowd if someone's up here, like even Toast and Bossy. I remember someone was like, "Oh, look, it's Elvis." I saw them in Las Vegas like years and years ago, and someone was like, "That's a
Okay.
very Elvis thing to do," and I was like, "No, it's fucking not." But then I saw a video of Elvis, and I was like, "Oh,
It's totally what he does.
yeah."
That's
And
why they
but
can do all that crazy shit. I mean, like him and Hav, like I mean Hav especially, like the way he thinks of like melody and harmony is just I mean, it blows my mind every single time. So to watch those
yeah.
guys shred with Matt again, it's going to be awesome for
Oh
sure.
yeah, I forgot so it's been 3 records I think with them now with Matt as their drummer.
Mm.
And every time is better and it's like more Matt driven, I feel like. So it's very cool to watch.
Yeah, it's
Speaking
scary.
of, there's a song, I think it's Red Miso, that a lot of people were like, this is a car bomb moment
It
for
is. It is. Yep. Yep.
that was
Yeah.
exciting for me as a car bomb fan because I was like that to see animals as leaders getting conflated with them so quickly in like just this moment in a song, that's a great sign for Car Bomb. Really for both of you, because I mean, you guys have been when Centralia came out. When did Car Bomb start initially?
Well, officially it started in 2000. I joined the band in 2002, I think. And then
Okay.
we had another drummer before Elliot. I think he joined around 2004. And
Holy
then
shit.
Mike came in at the same year, I believe. And then 2008 was Centralia, I think.
Okay, I wanted to say 2008 because I was like, that's the year that I associate both with Car Bomb and Animals as Leaders. Um, Animals as Leaders, I think, might have came out slightly after that, but I remember seeing Tosin Bossy like in his outfits and with his guitars the
Mhm.
same time that someone was talking about Centralia when I was in college. Um, which is a great time to get into that music too. Like I was not into heavy music really. My friends were, but in college, getting into people convincing me to listen to Black Dahlia Murder enough to like get past the harsh vocals and then like the harsh vocals, like
Mhm.
the onslaught of heavy music at like 2009 2010 was it was just so exciting. And so to have Car Bomb and Animals as leaders a part of that wave for me is so exciting to see you guys still working together or all these years later. When was the first time you met Animals as leaders?
We did a tour with them and Periphery. I want to say it was, I don't remember. I want to say 2018, maybe 2017. And yeah, just hit them off with all those guys. I mean, they're all super nice, friendly dudes, and nerds when it comes to music and gear like us. So, we fit all together really nicely.
Do you guys talk about music in like more in theoretical terms or like rhythmic terms, or are you more just talking about like bands and stuff?
A little bit. I mean, we all really don't know what we're doing. We're just kind of making stuff up as we go, and trying to make it sound the best we can make it sound. But yeah, I mean, more so like what we're listening to, and check this out, check that out, check out that drummer. Holy shit, how is that guy doing that? Like that type of thing.
So it's what I just like realized, a lot of these heavy bands, I would honestly say like, Animals as Leaders, Gojira, Car Bomb, they all have these sort of side fascinations with electronic music. They and everyone has a lot of respect for Aphex Twin and Autechre.
Hmm.
Do you think there's something about I might have asked you this actually in a different form when we did our like written interview a while ago, but do you think there's something about IDM and like the challenging nature of like the rhythm and the subdivisions of it that's like do you think there's a reason metalheads tend to really like IDM too?
I guess. Yeah. I mean, it's weird because now, like, using more of the modular stuff, I thought everything was like programmed specifically, but it turns out you can do all that ratcheting stuff with a knob and sort of change the subdivisions that way. So, like, doing something where it's like
Yeah.
that type of thing, that's like just a knob turning as opposed to like I don't know. That sound always was something I was fascinated with, is like how rhythmic, subdivisions change and all that. So, a lot of like, that mid period with Aphex Twin, like the RDJ record and drug use. Those two records are so mechanical and so like rhythmically dense
Yeah.
that I think, yeah, I mean, especially as a drummer, I mean, in Car Bomb, we're all sort of like wannabe drummers, except for Elliot. Obviously, he's amazing, but Johnny and I and Mike also would love to pretend to play drums. So yeah, that's where our ears gravitate towards.
That's cool. Yeah, it's interesting how I guess under a lot of melody or really any kind of song structure, a lot of people do boil down to like, okay, where's the bass drum? Is it kind of something I can like nod and like trance out to? Not in like it's I mean, as someone that like runs a blog based on technical music, I can see it as much as anyone else. And just like more people like the stuff that has a steady pulse and that has more repetition in it. That
Sure.
doesn't
Yeah.
mean it's good or bad. Like, it's just ego talking if I think one way or the other. But
Hmm.
it is really interesting to see how like rhythmic subdivisions almost define different genres. And I think that a lot of like those fast triplets and like galloping things and like really long, almost like blast beady things, they all happen in IDM. Like they all happen in a lot of it's a different context, different palette, But if you're
Mhm.
a drummer, like you're saying, like a lot of that will sound the same. And I think that Animals as Leaders has a lot of good examples too. But also Elliot has always been a good example of like bridging the gap, I think, between something very mechanical and very human. I think and we've talked about that already, but it's interesting how electronic artists try to do the same thing to their music where they try to humanize it, get it in the middle.
Mhm.
Where and then the metal is like kind of the other end of the speak of the robot frequency, but still trying to get it back into the middle. Everyone wants to sound human, but like also not.
Well, it's a mix. I mean, there's something for like if you're just playing acoustic guitar and it's your voice, that's one type of sound. That's like as most human as you can get. But I think with metal, or maybe just the way I think of music, I want it to be a little more than human. I want it to be a little more like supernatural or superhuman, or
Excellent.
just that it's something that's a little not necessarily impossible, but it's something a little like 10% out of our reach of what we can do as a band. But let's try to play it anyway and see if we can get that extra 10%. Like especially with Paroxysm, like that song is a bitch to play, and it's like there are times where you just lose the hand thing, even though it's a simple pattern. It's just you're fighting for your wrist to like lock into it,
It's
and
like
that's
bleed.
the sweet spot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's almost like Car Bomb's bleed moment. Uh
kind of. Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, we'll see.
that'd be
That'd be
cool. I mean,
great.
I don't want to speak too soon, but like the um it's hard to say. It has such a car bomb sound immediately. There's zero intro, there's zero subtlety to the new single to Paroxysm. And it's
Mhm.
to me, it starts out a lot like not in the same way, but like it has the same effect of Meshuggah's Bleed, where you're like, that's Meshuggah. The second it comes on, you're like, that's Meshuggah.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's really cool to hear this coming from your band in a way where it doesn't sound like you're repeating yourself. It just sounds like your signature is very much there and you're able to explore without like criticizing yourself. Does it feel like you guys are able to be more free these days as far as writing as you're building this record up, I guess?
Yeah. I mean, we've always kept it that way. I mean, it's tough. Personally, I think, and I said this before, it's like just watching, like playing with Gojira and Meshuggah and Animals, and seeing the proficiency in their instruments and their songwriting, and they're very like there are things we would gloss over that they pay attention to. Like a lot of this, the biggest thing I guess in this new record is like trimming things down and just getting to the point a little sooner. Like even Turnstile is great at doing that, like we talked about before.
Right.
And I think it's. I mean, we still want to play what we want to play, but we don't want to like overindulge ourselves with a part being too long. Like we want to keep the song moving in a direction where it's going somewhere, as opposed to like, oh, let's just play some random rhythmic patterns for a minute. You know, like let's
Sure.
try let's make the pieces sort of change the layers so that it actually progresses to a new place.
That kind of maybe I can't say without knowing for sure, but that kind of speaks to the title of the EP maybe a little bit. Is like it seems like you guys are really good at crafting these parts, but also making it sound like a song. Like so many bands have great part, who knows, great part, who knows, great part in within songs where like
Mhm.
you will think of the song as those parts, and then when you more have to like sit through the stuff in between. And so I would never say that car bombs was something you could ever sit through. If anything, it asks you to get the fuck out of your seat. Um, but do you have any thoughts on the lyrical direction? If you can't say anything about the title, would you
Yeah.
have any kind of like summation of where the lyrics have been going?
I can't tell you, like, I can't speak for Mike, but all I can say is, like, I really like them. The more that I read them and get into them, the more they resonate with sort of, like, I guess, what we're all going through now, like living through these times, I guess, or at least how I feel, you know?
Sure.
Like, I know, like, the way he always talks about it, and I guess it makes me understand more of where he comes from and how he works, is that he's not necessarily talking about something specifically, but he wants to provoke a certain feeling. Sort of how, what's his name? Oh god, I'm drawing a blank right now. David Lynch. So David
Oh
Lynch
God.
has like this. He just throws in weird stuff and might not make sense, but it definitely provokes this feeling. And like a line from him, like out of nowhere, can provoke that with like through me. Like the way that I hear his stuff, I'm like, it just makes that sharp fucking right turn, and you're like, what the fuck? And it gives you that resonating feeling of, I don't know,
That's really fun.
disorientation. I don't know.
That makes sense. Though. I mean, it's definitely surreal, and it's always been that way. Like I
Yeah.
reading the lyrics to like the Sentinel or really anything off of Centralia or the Waveform album, there are almost laugh out loud moments that you're just like, oh, this dude is literally channeling like what it's like to slam the door and just be like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
but like you're saying, there's a lot of dreamlike imagery or like random segues to a different not a different subject but like maybe a different character a different setting within this story that he's telling so
Mhm,
that's an interesting comparison that I mean it makes sense even though I've never really thought of David Lynch as like a car bomb adjacent thing
mhm.
that
We're all
maybe is
very adjacent to David Lynch. We love all his stuff for
that's
sure.
awesome to
That's like a
hear.
common thread. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, I don't want to ask you too many questions about the EP because I feel like talking about dreams, talking about David Lynch, talking about the title of the EP, that could go a long way. But is there any like one thing from David Lynch that maybe has inspired you guys as a group the most?
Huh. That's a good question. No, I think we all like him for different reasons, I think. I mean, my favorite thing from him is Mulholland Drive, I think. I think that
Oh,
one just has
weird.
a
Okay.
it just goes south. It just never recovers. It's just like, yep, we're gonna go down, and it just keeps going down and down and down. And that one is that the movie where the guy talks about he has this dream about this person that he doesn't want to see, and then he like walks. It takes like 2 minutes for him to walk to the dumpster where that person comes out behind.
If it's not Mulholland Drive, then it's the Lost Highway.
I think it's Mulholland Drive.
Okay.
I
I
think.
saw that one at a terrible time, edited on TV at around 9
Oh,
p.m. as a
it's not like
child, and I was like, what is this?
yeah, yeah, it's wild. And I watched again the whole Twin Peaks series. The first season's just unbelievable. It's so creepy and weird and
Yeah, that's its
amazing.
own thing.
Yeah.
And it has its own, it's like world building, which is, I guess, a parallel I could maybe make between Mike's lyrics and David Lynch is like it's very much a world building thing. It does seem random, like a shift to this person or this thing, but it's not unrelated and it's almost meant to be a non-linear thing like when you get to the end you're like oh that's what he was talking about or
Hmm.
that's what that meant and it's cool to be doing that all these years later still with stuff from like from Meta and the Waveform album. The Waveform album I feel like I don't want to say it was slept on, but I feel like it was a level of complex for some people that really liked everything that came after, like Meta and Mordial. I would say that people are still listening to it for the first time who have listened to Carbon for a long time. And
Hmm.
I think it's really fun to talk to people about it because it teases, at least right now, it feels like kind of like a callback. I don't want to say that in like a reverting thing, but like you're saying, maybe touching back on your roots a little bit. It's cool that you guys are at this point in your career where you can where we're as fans able to make these comparisons between your records and it's its own non-linear thing like oh you started with Meta or you started with Morgul you got it here Centralia and I'm still really lucky to be able to have those conversations with people at like the blog like people will ask me a question about a different band ask me about their history and a lot of times when people ask about Carbon they haven't heard that album yet. I think it's because they can't type it. They're just like I don't really know how to search it and I don't like
Right, right,
Spotify.
right.
um
People don't want to search our band name because of the whole, what list will I be on, from the government if I type in car bomb into my web browser.
Fair enough. Yeah, that, I should have thought of
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Oh, too late. You're on the list now.
Yeah, that's okay. No, I mean, I can't. I'm not gonna nail you with questions about that, but that I all I can say is if you guys are sticking to it, you guys must still feel good about it, and
We're kind of stuck with it now. We don't have a choice.
yeah, you can just change it to a different kind of bomb.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to see if I have any more like pressing questions here in my little pad. Is there anything that maybe you want to tell people to expect or not expect from the EP?
No, I think they're gonna see what it is when it comes out. I mean, it's only 3 songs, so it's gonna get to the point real quick, and then
That's fair.
hopefully next year. So we are working on some other stuff. We're shooting for next year to get it out, so stay tuned for that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Um, one last random question. I might not even record this in or put this in the recording. As someone who's more recently into games, I will hear some pretty crazy sound design. I'll hear a lot of like unique you could call them like sound animations, and a lot of them remind me of Car Bomb in some genres where I'm just like, how are these people who are making video game soundtracks getting these, if not sampling Greg from Car Bomb?
Oh
Uh,
shit. Okay. Maybe.
yeah, I don't know if you had thought about that as like a third career or anything, but I was like, I bet a Car Bomb soundtrack would kick ass.
Yeah, that'd be rad. That would be rad as hell. I mean, I've worked with someone who makes soundtracks for a living. So to see like how they think of things, it's completely different than the way we think of things. And I've always wanted, like, working with Cytecra stuff, and working with more layers and textures as opposed to like, riffs. It'd be a fun thing to do. So maybe who knows?
It could be sick. I didn't know that how different. I didn't know how different it was until a while ago. I interviewed Zach Weeks, who did production for this band, The Armed,
Okay.
uh, and he did a live production for. He did like a live their live film. He did the audio production for, and then he did it for the associated album. And the differences he was describing between like how you would pan things and why you would pan things was like a different universe as far as what I had originally thought of as like, center, left, right, and certain XY values. But
Mhm.
yeah, I just feel like that's the infinitely deep thing. I could see you guys being on like one of the new Doom game soundtracks or something like that. I don't know if you've heard any of the Doom game
I
soundtracks.
haven't heard any of the music from it. Didn't Thorndale do some video game work too? Like maybe like a decade ago?
That would be excellent. I'm not sure, but that sounds right. His stuff would be right. His like lead style is very much kind of what I'm talking about, like with your stuff, with the way you stretch out big effects. It's these quick and nasty effect things that you do that I hear more in sound design these days.
Mhm.
And so it would make sense if he was in on that. But yeah, I'm running into more and more crossover with people that like work in the video games industry and do soundtracks for film and video games in math rock and prog rock and stuff. It's cool to see there's like extra careers for musicians in bands, or like I
Sure.
shouldn't put it that way. There's
Or even
there's
just like
careers
the
out
influence. Or even like influence. Like I remember watching Tenet, Christopher Nolan's like spy movie.
there. Oh man.
And the name of the composer escapes me, but he has an eight string Thorndale model. And like one of the first musical pieces is like it's like that what album is that? Catch 33, where the whole music stops and it's just like those dive bombs.
Oh,
Yeah, and I was like, I heard that. I'm like, there it is. Like it's
that's
finally
right.
crossing over, which is fantastic.
If you like that, I think you definitely like the Doom game soundtrack. It's this dude
Okay.
named Gordon did the soundtrack, and a lot of it is with it's a custom 8 string guitar, but it's very intense. And I think if you're someone who's like into rock or into metal, but not necessarily into that, it's hard to explain. I guess I would put it like my dad, who doesn't like bands, will listen to the OST. Well, he'll listen to the Doom soundtrack
Okay.
because it's not a band, but it sounds like metal as fuck.
Hmm. Okay. All right.
Yeah, so
Check
it
it out.
can it's a weird appeal. But anyway, yeah, I have rambled quite a bit. Thank you so much for joining me. Is there anything you want to tell the lovers of car bombs while you're here?
No, just keep a lookout for the other songs. Blind Sides will be out, I think July 11th, I think was the date. And then the EP comes out August 1st. And
Dang.
yeah,
Okay.
we'll be in Europe in August and Australia in September. And that's
Have
it.
fun in Australia. Yeah, that's gonna
Thank
be
you, man. We
awesome.
will. For sure, man.
Alrighty. Well, I'm gonna clonk back in and pretend to, well, or I guess just not pretend. I'm gonna go be a wage slave.
All right, man. Sounds good.
All right. Have a good
All right,
rest of your
enjoy, man.
day.
Nice talking to you.
Adios.